So for the second experiment in lab number 9, we're going to look at the diffusion. And we're going to look at 3 factors that affect diffusion: temperature, particle size, and agitation. So in the first one, we're going to put 10 milliliters of cold versus 10 milliliters of hot water into 2 test tubes. And then we will put samples of granular copper sulfate into each tube. Okay, and we will stir and see how well they dissolve. We're going to see in which one the process of dissolution goes faster. In the second comparison of 2 test tubes, we're going to compare the particle size. We have granular versus crystalline copper sulfate, and we're going to look which one dissolves faster. And finally, for agitation, we're going to have 2 beakers the same size, and we're going to drop a few crystals of potassium permanganate and then see if stirring affects the process of dissolution. For the first experiment, which will be the temperature comparison. So this is the cold water. This is, well, I have to refill it with the warm water again. So here we are. The water is refreshed, and we're going to pour some copper sulfate in a colder water, and some copper sulfate in the warmer water. And then I'm going to take a stirring rod and I'm going to stir it a little bit here, and I'm going to stir it here. The amount of precipitate is actually now a little bit larger in a cold water, which is not surprising. at this point, look, the cold water sample still contains some precipitate. The hot water sample is fully dissolved. So considering that the temperature difference between the two was very, very small, very marginal, we can, even with this, we can clearly see that diffusion, dissolution happens faster in the warm water. Now, next experiment that we're going to be doing is we're going to try to dissolve the nice, flaky copper sulfate versus pretty rough and crude crystalline copper sulfate. So I'm going to put crystalline copper sulfate here, and I'm going to put flaky one here. So after the same number of revolutions, you can clearly see that the copper sulfate with the finer structure here is fully dissolved, while the crystalline copper sulfate, not the granular, is not dissolved yet and is going to take some time for it to get fully dissolved. So the smaller the particle size, the faster the diffusion. So here I've got 2 beakers with water. I've got potassium permanganate. I'm going to add crystals here, a few crystals here, and then you're going to be watching as the color changes. I'm going to agitate this one, and you can see that agitation dramatically increases the rate of diffusion. So answer these questions. You saw the experiment, and submit your lab online.